You ever listen to a group of young people playing a video game? It almost sounds like a totally new language, right? You've got this mix of English, their native language, and all these terms that, well, you've probably never heard before. And you know what? You're not wrong. So let's dive into this really unique hybrid language that's literally being created and refined in real time in the digital world.
You know, there's this pretty common fear out there that this kind of language mixing is a bad thing, that it's somehow corrupting or even destroying a language. But what if that's not the case at all? What if something else is going on? Well, we're going to dig into a really fascinating academic study that looks at this exact issue. And you'll see it comes to a very, very different conclusion.
Okay, so let's set the stage here. Think about it. On one side, you've got the super formal language we're all taught in school. You know, the kind that's all about purity and following the rules to a T. But then, on the other side, you've got the language of our actual digital lives, especially in gaming. It's dynamic, it's fast-paced, and communication has to be quick, efficient, and super creative.
And believe me, this isn't just some, theoretical debate for academics. This is real. In Sweden, for example, people were so concerned about the influence of English that it actually led to something called the 2009 language law. Part of its goal? To literally protect Swedish. So you can see this highlights a real tension between wanting to preserve a language and, well, acknowledging how people are actually using it every day.
And this is the exact question that researcher Rasmus Lindberg decided to tackle in his master's thesis. He looked at this and didn't see a problem that needed fixing. Instead, he saw this really complex, fascinating linguistic thing happening that was worth a much closer look. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to unpack the key findings from his work for anyone who's interested in learning more about this stuff.
So, to get to the bottom of this, Lindberg came up with a really brilliant and honestly super simple experiment. His whole goal was to capture that authentic, totally unfiltered communication that happens between gamers when, the pressure's really on.
He chose the game It Takes Two, which, if you know it, was the perfect choice. Why? Because you absolutely cannot succeed in that game without intense cooperation and just constant communication. So, by recording two experienced gamers playing, the study could capture exactly how they used language, totally naturally, to solve problems as they happened, in real time. All right, so what did the analysis actually find? Well, it wasn't that these students were speaking bad Swedish or broken English or anything like that. No, not at all. Instead, they were using this incredibly sophisticated and powerful linguistic tool, one that researchers actually have a specific name for.
And here's the crucial point, right? This thing called translanguaging, it's not about getting confused between languages. It is the exact opposite. It's about strategically grabbing whatever you need from your entire linguistic toolbox. We're talking every word, every grammatical rule you know, from any language, to get your point across as clearly and efficiently as possible in that moment. You could almost say it's a feature, not a bug.
Let's look at some fantastic examples from the study, because this is where it gets really cool. So a player says, "Du måste aima" put in there, which means you have to aim at that one. But look at the verb aim. They took the English word and just seamlessly slotted it into Swedish grammar by adding the Swedish suffix for a verb, a. It's not really English anymore, and it's not traditional Swedish either. It's a brand new hybrid, and it's built for one thing, getting the job done.
Here's another one. We can see how they grab language directly from the game itself. So the game has this ability called dash. Now, instead of wasting time trying to translate it or describe it, the player just says, "Jag tror jag måste dasha mig förbi dem." I think I have to dash past them. See? Again, they just modify dash with the Swedish ending. This makes their instruction totally instant and perfectly clear inside the world of the game.
And of course, you see classic gamer slang pop up. At one point, a player gets frustrated and jokes, "Nej, jag är rage quitter." No, I'm rage quitting. But get this, she doesn't just say the English phrase, she treats the whole thing, rage quit, as a single Swedish verb and slaps on the present tense R ending. It just goes to show how deeply these terms are baked right into their everyday functional vocabulary.
So, what the analysis showed was that this language mixing wasn't random at all. Far from it. The English words they used served very specific functions. Sometimes they were game-specific terms, like dash, because it was just the most efficient word to use. Other times, they pulled from the wider gaming culture using established terms like safe spot. And then, you get these really fascinating asymmetrical phrases, like lower it down, where English and Swedish grammar kind of just blend together in a single thought. It's amazing. Okay, so what does all of this mean beyond just one 2-hour gaming session? Well, This is where the study really connects these little observations to a much, much bigger idea about language and how it works in our modern world.
The thesis makes the case that the gaming world is basically a perfect laboratory for something called sociolinguistic superdiversity. It's a big term, but the idea is simple. In our globalized, digital world, we're all constantly swimming in different languages and cultures. And this theory says that people naturally and creatively mix all of those resources together to communicate in this new, complex landscape. And gamers? Well, they're just on the cutting edge of it all.
And listen, we are not talking about some niche hobby here. Not even close. Data shows that high school boys in Sweden, just for example, spend an average of 10 hours a week gaming. Think about that. That's more than a full work day, every single week. This isn't just a game. It's a primary environment where language skills aren't just learned. They are actively practiced, tested, and sharpened, day in and day out. So here we get to the real takeaway of the entire study. Schools often look at this hybrid language and see a mistake that needs to be corrected. But this research flips that on its head. It reframes this not as a mistake, but as a valuable, sophisticated skill. It's a resource that shows a deep, intuitive grasp of how to use language effectively. And it's a skill that, for the most part, our formal education system is completely ignoring.
And this brings us to the final, really challenging question that the research leaves us with. By drawing this hard line in the sand between proper classroom language and the dynamic, living languages that students actually use in their digital lives, what potential are we just leaving on the table? What could we achieve if we actually recognized and embraced this linguistic creativity for what it is, an incredibly powerful tool for communication?